Death brings out the absolute worst in people. I've spent 14 years watching money move. Through balance sheets, through probate filings, through families who thought they had a plan, and through families who had nothing. No will, no documents, no conversation. This is a story about the second kind. A man lost his father. He won in probate court. He had the law on his side, 3 attorneys confirmed it, and the judge agreed. And still, it almost broke him. Let's set the scene. A man, we'll call him Marcus, grew up as an only child. His parents married before he was born, separated when he was young, and finalized their divorce by the time Marcus was in his 30s. His father stayed in his life throughout. Present, involved, no question about that. When his father died, Marcus expected the process to be straightforward. Sad, but straightforward. There was no will. That's the first problem. But his father had done one thing right. His bank accounts carried a payable-on-death designation, POD in legal shorthand. What that means is simple. The moment the account holder dies, the money transfers directly to whoever is named. No probate, no court, no waiting. Contractual. Clean. Marcus was named. The money was his. Everything else, property, personal belongings, anything not covered by that POD, went into probate, the legal process for handling the rest of an estate. And since there was no will, the state's intestacy laws would determine how those assets were distributed. Marcus was the only child. The math was simple. Then his father's siblings showed up. The siblings, his father's brothers and sisters, didn't contest a will. There was no will to contest. Instead, they did something more calculated. They claimed Marcus wasn't his father's biological child. Think about what that move is. It's not a legal argument. Not yet. It's a pressure play. If they can create enough doubt, enough noise, maybe Marcus folds. Maybe he hands over some of the money just to make it stop. Maybe he decides the relationship isn't worth the fight. They demanded the bank assets be redistributed among the father's siblings. They told Marcus to, and I'm quoting directly here, do the morally correct thing and gift them the money. Now here's where I want to slow down, because this is where financial disasters actually live. Not in the dramatic courtroom moment, but in the moment right before it. When someone is grieving, exhausted, and facing people who are using emotional language to obscure a legal reality. So let me tell you what the legal reality was. The payable-on-death accounts were never part of the estate. The moment Marcus's father died, that money transferred. It was already done. The siblings had zero legal claim to it, not because of family status, not because of biology, not because of anything. POD designations are contractual instruments. They don't care about family trees. They care about the name on the form. 3 independent estate attorneys confirmed this when the story later went public. James Wilder, a Miami probate attorney, put it plainly. The bank account is easy. It's contractual. The family should have zero claim to that. But the siblings didn't stop there. Probate ruled in Marcus's favor on the remaining estate assets too, as it should have. He was the only child. The family lost. And then they threatened to file civil lawsuits, plural, until what they called the truth was revealed. So Marcus went to Reddit and asked to the estatement from Morris as Marcus with address. Now the judgment looks like, am I wrong for refusing to give them anything? Am I wrong for not even engaging with them anymore? Nearly 10,000 people said no. You're not wrong. But here's the question I want to answer, because it's more useful than whether Marcus was right or wrong. How did this family get here? The father was ill for some time before he died. That's not a detail buried in the story. Marcus mentioned it directly. The family knew this was coming. And in all that time, they did nothing. No conversations about the estate. No requests to update beneficiary designations. No discussion about what would happen to the assets. They assumed. They assumed that proximity to grief would translate into legal rights, that being family would be enough. It isn't. It never is. This is what broke by design actually looks like. It's not a sudden catastrophe. It's a slow failure to prepare, followed by a desperate attempt to make someone else pay for it. The siblings didn't lose because they were dishonest. They lost because they never had a legal leg to stand on, and nobody in that family had the hard conversation while there was still time to have it. If the father had wanted his siblings to receive any of his estate, there was a simple path. Update the POD designation. Add them to it. Write a will. Have a conversation with an estate attorney that would have taken 90 minutes and a few $100s. Any of those moves would have changed this story entirely. He didn't do any of them. And now a family is destroyed over money that, legally, was never theirs to begin with. Here's what every person watching this should know. A payable-on-death designation overrides a will. It overrides probate. It bypasses the entire estate process. If you have bank accounts, retirement accounts, or life insurance, the beneficiary designation on that form is the document that controls where that money goes. Not a will, not a court, not your family's expectations. If you die without a will, what's called dying intestate, your state's default rules take over. Every state is different. In most, assets flow to a spouse first, then children, then parents, then siblings. But those rules only apply to assets that go through probate. POD accounts never do. The single most important thing Marcus's father could have done, for everyone, including his own siblings, was to put his wishes in writing while he still could. Not because the law required it, because clarity is the only thing that prevents what happened here. Marcus won, legally. But I want you to notice what winning looked like. Months of probate, a paternity accusation, threatened civil lawsuits, a family that will never speak to each other again, thousands of dollars in attorney fees, and a grieving son who had to spend the year after his father's death fighting people who never had a case. That's not a victory. That's a financial disaster that happened to have a correct legal outcome at the end. I follow the money because money is where people tell the truth about what they value and where they reveal what they failed to plan for. This story wasn't about greed. It was about silence. A family that never had the conversation that could have saved them. An estate with no instructions. And the vacuum that gets filled when people die without making their wishes clear. Every week on this channel, I'm going to follow a different paper trail, a different disaster. Some of them are about inheritance. Some are about businesses that collapsed. Some are about ordinary people who made decisions that seemed reasonable until they weren't. Every single one left a trail. I'm going to follow it. This has been Broke by Design. If this story made you think about your own estate documents, good. That means it did its job. Subscribe. New episode next week.